welcome to Down and Dirty. I'm Larry, and today we're going to put a remote start on my 2006 Chevy Duramax diesel truck. It's a MPC, plug and play, pre-wired, no wires to be spliced or cut, so let's get started. Okay, so here's what we have. It's a remote start from MPC for a 2006 Chevy, gas or diesel. You can use it for either. Comes with a code on the front of the box. Scan that code and you can download these instructions. Actually seems pretty self-explanatory. This is the plug and play setup, so it looks like no wiring or very little wiring. So anyway, it looks like pretty straightforward instructions. Plug and play setup. It all plugs in, replaces your OBD2 port with a new one, and your existing one plugs into their wiring harness. Let's get this out of the box. Here's everything out of the box. This is the connector that plugs into the ignition. Has your new OBD2 port. This is your typical module you have to use because of in your factory system. That's to bypass that so the remote start can start it. It's a crime stopper unit. There's your brain. It's got an antenna here. It's supposed to have 1,500 foot range with these remotes. Okay, now the instructions say that we need to connect our, they call it T-harness. This large harness here in the package, we'll get that out. Connect that to the ignition switch right there, and then this plugs into the original ignition switch wire. I already took the dash all apart, pulled off all the trim around the gauges, the lower panel, so we can get in there. And right here is the plug we're going to have to disconnect. This one right here, we're going to pull this out, plug theirs in, and then this plugs into their cable. First step is you unplug this factory plug here. You push this in to release it, pull it out. This wire was all taped up inside of it, so I took the tape off to separate these wires that go to the ignition switch itself up top from this. Here is the original factory cable and the original factory switch. So it's the original factory switch right there that I plugged into this harness. This goes up where the original factory switch used to go, or factory plug used to go, and underneath the ignition switch. This is the original one. And all the rest of this harness with a new OBD port hanging down there. It's going to need to get tucked in. Alright, so what we're going to do next is this whole kick plate here has the wiring, all the wiring runs up in behind it. It's really tight down here at the bottom, so I'll see a good way to try to stuff this big thing through there. So what I'm going to do, okay, there's 4 nuts. These 2 and 2 on the opposite side. Looks like they're 10 millimeter. Take that plate off so I can tuck the wires up behind, and then we'll put that back on. It's just 4 nuts holding it on, so I'm going to take that off. So like I said, I took this panel off here. Those 2 nuts on each side. And so right here is our wiring. So it's run down in behind it. It comes out right here. So this is our harness that I ran in behind there. Right here's everything, all of our connectors and everything that we still need to finish up. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, we need to remove this factory OBD2 connector and put this one in its place. It's part of the harness for this remote start. I have this plug here that the original port is going to plug into it. So we're going to get this removed, get this put in its place, plug this one into the white connector in the harness. We'll do that next. Okay, mounted the new port, OBD port here, and right here we have the original one plugged into the new connector, this white connector. And so this is the original port that was under the dash. And I'm just going to get some zip ties on this, tie this up under here so it's not flopping around and not getting on any of these sharp edges, cutting these wires. So I'm going to solder these 2 wires together. One here is the connector for the hood safety switch, and the other is a wire that I had to run because the wires are not long enough to reach through the firewall and see if I can get down in there. I'm not sure if I can get down in there to show you, but there's a grommet down under the Hydro Boost, or to the right of the Hydro Boost, should say, not under it. All right, let's solder this together. A little Harbor Freight soldering iron here. Voila! There it is, soldered together. Got a piece of shrink tubing already put on here. There's a little bit of flame. Shrink tube. That's it. All done. Extension wire. Okay, we're going to explain this hood switch here. It's got this tang on the end of it. It's where the wire plugs in, the one that we just soldered an extension onto. And you got the threaded body that goes through the hole that we drilled that has to make contact with metal. So it comes with a star washer right here that will cut through the paint when you tighten it up to make contact with the metal. So the way this works, when the hood shuts, you separate these two. I'm going to make mine separate probably at least that much, if not more. When it separates those two, the hood is closed. When they're touching, the hood is open. So that's what you're looking for there. So we'll get this installed and I'll adjust it so when the hood's closed, you know, we get a decent gap in between there. So the system knows that the hood is closed. So drill hole for this hood switch. You don't want it to remote start with the hood open. All right, I'm going to use it's called a center drill here to get a pilot hole started. Then we're going to use our step drill. Need 5/16. Here we are, we got 5/16 hole. Alright, I'm going to put some paint on this. It's actually black. It'll be fine. Doesn't really matter. It's going to be covered up anyway for the part. There we go. I'm going to touch up paint on there. Okay, we're going to install our hood switch. So it works properly. All right, I'll have to check that. Close the hood here and see how that works. Well, wasn't the greatest video. Kind of a little bit blurry, but you could see what I was looking for. I had the camera under there so we could see if this plunger went down, and it did. I just adjusted it up slightly because it moved about so much there, looking at it from the video. So I moved it up slightly so it would push down a little bit more. Got a meter hooked up, got a wire run to ground. So we're going to make sure that we have continuity to ground now. So I'm going to touch the other lead of the meter to the switch. As you see there, we are showing that it has continuity to ground. Take it off. It's not. Touch it. It's going to ground. Touch a little tab. It's going to ground. Push our plunger down. And our tab is not going to ground. We push the plunger down. Touch the meter lead. It is not going to ground. So switch is working as it's supposed to. Got our wire hooked up to our plunger switch here. It's all good. Working on our antenna. Got it plugged into the wire. See, it's plugged in right there. It says to keep it at least an inch away from metal. I'm just going to put it right up here on the driver's side. We'll get pull the tape off and do the adhesive thing. Be the last step. But so I've got this A-pillar molding pulled down. Follow the wire. Follow this wire behind the A-pillar all the way down. Tuck it in here. Tuck it in behind the dash here. Then we can just run it back through there and over to our control module. Okay, we're going to install our what they call a Valet Switch and an indicator light. This indicator light comes with it. I guess it helps in troubleshooting if you have any issues. And the Valet Switch here that you do use for setting up. So it says you don't have to mount them if you don't want to, or you can, or I'm going to put them in the kick panel. It's this kick panel right here. Driver's side kick panel. Hood release right here. It's got plenty of room right up in behind here. It's far enough away from the e-brake. So I'm going to drill 2 holes in here so we can get these things mounted. Okay, with 2 holes drilled, put the switch in the top one. I'll put our indicator light in the bottom one. I got them installed. Indicator light, push button Valet switch, both installed in the kick panel. So there we are, got them installed. Okay, I got everything connected. Went through the whole programming sequence, which is very basic, simple, straightforward. Just follow everything that it says. Plug everything in as it says you should in the order and do the ignition switch, program the tach. All went very well, very easy. Looks like it's time to wrap it up here. I just test started it. We can do that again. Shut the door here. Let's push the remote key button. This is the key button right here. It shows a key on it. Push and hold that. See the light flash. Release. Just heard the ignition come on. And it starts. Stop it, do the same thing. So that's all there is to it. Door locks work, everything works. I'm pretty happy with this. Pretty easy install, really, not a whole lot to it. So we're going to get everything wrapped up in there and tucked away, and all the covers put back on the dash and the steering column. So, so far I'm pretty impressed with this system. It's a nice setup, easy to do. Alright, so this is where I put everything. This is the plate that I took off the 4 nuts. There's 2 nuts, the other 2 over here, you can kind of see those. This is the plate that I took off to get the wires all ran behind it, and then I put it back on. So I've got the main module here, what they call the brain, is held on with 3M double-sided adhesive. And then over here is your other, the module for to bypass, for your bypass, for your so you can remote start a vehicle that has security on it. And I used 3M adhesive on it as well. Just stuck it up off the side. I stuck this one up under here, zip tied all my wires up around. And the reason I mounted it here is you can see maybe that one red fuse right there. There's also 2 green fuses back there behind it. So I've got those, they're pointed down towards the floor, so I can look up from underneath, check the fuses if I ever have an issue. Because this bottom panel is not easy to get off without taking the whole gauge cluster panel off, and difficult to get to, so I wanted to make it so I could easily access the fuses for this system. So the green ones are back behind that red one, but there's 3 fuses on the system. So now if I lay on the floor, look up, I can see the fuses for this. I can easily pull them out, check them. So that's the reason that I mounted this the way I did, because there's not a whole lot of excess wire to get it around to where you can actually easily see those fuses, and this is the one I came up with. And this 3M adhesive, you know, it's pretty stout stuff. I think it'll hold up. If it don't and it falls down, I'll hear it rattling around, but I think we're going to be okay. Zip tie everything up all nice and neat, and we're done. I'm going to put all my panels back on and we'll check it again. Okay, we got the remote start installed on the truck. Everything works great. It was really easy to install. Like I said, print off your installation instructions. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy job. Probably the most time-consuming part I thought was the hood switch. It took some time. Had to extend the wire that came with it because it wasn't long enough. But other than that, everything just plugged right in and it all works good. So pretty happy with it, and we'll do a follow-up review after I've had this for a couple months. It's winter here in South Carolina, so I'll be using it a lot. Using it pretty much daily, and it's all right. Thank you for coming. Appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, share, comment below. Take care.